Harris is a licensed professional counselor with Warriors Heart, an addiction and PTSD treatment center for veterans, active military, and first responders. Like Harris, many of them were on the front lines volunteering for search and recovery efforts. She says many of the things that they see may stick with them for the rest of their lives.
It's natural to sit back with your teammates and say, hey, what are you seeing? Hey, I just re-experienced something from that smell or that sight, or I'm hearing something and it cued me back in again.
Licensed professional counselor Kelly Harris says those sights, scents, and scenery can weigh heavily on the hearts of first responders after some time.
You can see the day after day. They're there, they're ready to do it, but they just want to focus on it and they're not concentrating on anything else. It's heavy. They're finding and recovering things every day, depending on where they're at.
She says with thousands of volunteers assisting with search efforts and their mission in mind, they feel a higher sense of purpose. But she advises to not be afraid to reach out for help.
Warriors Heart are last responders for the first responders. We can help you clinically and in other ways to be able to regulate your body again and get back to a healing. So the last response is to heal our first responders.
Warriors Heart, based out of Bandera, has outpatient programs available.
And Warriors Heart is in the backyard. We're right there, and we're here to help them when they're ready and when they need it.
The search continues until every person has been recovered.
And there's somebody that will always pick up the phone. Just like first responders, Warriors Heart doesn't sleep either.
The number to the nonprofit's 24-hour hotline is 866-955-4035. Your call will be answered by former first responders and veterans. Reporting from Kerrville, I'm Simone Simpson. Back to you.
And your heart just breaks for them, because your heart breaks so much for the family and friends of those who passed away in those Texas floods, but also for the first responders, true heroes trying to do the work of not only trying to search and rescue people who might have still been alive, but also just in general. So I definitely would encourage people to take advantage, if they need to, of those mental health resources. So.
Yeah, just such important work they're doing, but really heavy and long, just long days and a lot of help that needs to be done. So we're appreciative for them, for sure.
Yeah, and very thankful that we're at least getting a break here in the Carolinas from the flooding over the next few days. Much drier tomorrow, and Tim, you're going to be back with Brad, but I'm sure I'll see you in the next few weeks.
Hey folks, thanks for joining us for Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus. I'll be your host for the next couple of hours. Right off the bat, we wanted to address the big breaking entertainment news that we saw. Unfortunately, the passing of rock legend Ozzy Osbourne at the age of 76. We actually got some live images right now from the Hollywood Walk of Fame where you can see folks have already adorned his star there with flowers, and it looks like they've got candles out there, maybe even an album that someone dropped off. So folks paying their respects. Keep in mind, we are going to be continuing our coverage of reaction to this news of his passing throughout Live Impact News over the next couple of hours. We actually have a couple of interviews lined up later this hour and also next hour as folks local and beyond honor this legend and the legacy that he leaves behind. Meantime, we want to turn to some pretty exciting news for us here at Live Impact News. We've got Brian Battle in the Live Impact News studio with us right now, Ultimate Fighter Season 29 champion. We got UFC competitor. This is just going to be such a fun chat. We've also got Amro joining us. Amro, for folks who are not familiar with the different roles that we have in news, Amro works on our assignment desk. And so you're taking phone calls, you're listening to our scanners, you are kind of in the main, crux of like gathering news for our team, but you are also super into martial arts. And so I know you're going to be a great addition to this conversation. How exciting for us to have Brian Battle here with us, and Brian, also just exciting for us to be able to claim you as a Charlottean.
Oh, man, thank you so much. And it's super cool being here right now, you know what I'm saying? Being someone who's been in Charlotte for the past 20 years, you know what I'm saying, having this opportunity is really awesome and humbling. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you. And now we know you've been competing professionally for several years at this point. I did want to kind of like start off with, your vibe on like how Charlotte is maybe growing as a martial arts scene. I know there are certain cities here in the U.S. and also around the world where it's just known for either martial arts or even, I remember I lived in Tampa for so many years, like wrestling was such a big thing there. How has Charlotte developed over the recent years, do you think, as far as the scene goes?
Well, I'd say Charlotte, Charlotte's always had great athletes, you know what I'm saying? The high school sports scene in North Carolina has always been like, nothing to, laugh at, you know what I'm saying? There's always been tremendous athletes here. I think, and even before me, there was great fighters, people like Keith Richardson, Ricky Rainey, you know what I'm saying? Several guys who compete in the UFC, Derek Brunson. But there was, as I was coming up, there was kind of like a feeling where it's like, okay, you get to a certain level and you got to go somewhere else, you know what I'm saying, if you want to get to that very next level. And, I think, especially with my success, a lot of people have been able to see it's like, okay, it's like, we can fight out of here too, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we got all the ability, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing necessarily magic about going to Florida or, California or Vegas that's gonna automatically make you UFC caliber, you know what I'm saying? So you either kind of got that mentality or you don't got that mentality.
Yeah. I mean, we know you train with Carolina Combat Sports.
Yes, ma'am.
How has that seen, an impact, since you started training and fighting there?
It's shout out to my coach, head coach Tom Ziegler, you know what I mean? Me and him, he was my very first day one coach. Also shout out to my other day one coaches, Kevin Ferran and Tony Tan, like I said, CCS, we've been kind of growing together for a while, so it's been fun to see that, you know what I'm saying, fun to see people come in, and be inspired by, what the things that we've already achieved. I've been very fortunate, as I've got to, rub shoulders with like great champions in other places. Like, I've got to train with like Chris Weidman, former middleweight champion, Sean Strickland, former middleweight champion. My coach on Tough was Alex Volkanovski, one of the best fighters of all time. So I've just been very blessed to not only have a good community here, but also to have just like rubbed shoulders with some prolific fighters and just pick their mind and like, figure out like what's the difference between like, an average person and a great person when it comes to the fight game.
Yeah. I want to bring in Amro. So I gave you a little bit of a, introduction, but I feel like folks, to really kind of fully understand your interest and enjoyment in martial arts, tell us a little bit about what you do when you're not here helping us with the news, because I feel like this is one of the first things I learned about you, actually, when you were coming to do a job interview several months back for us.
Definitely not on the level that Brian does it, but I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. at Checkmat Charlotte under Michael Allen.
Yeah.
And
Cornbread.
Y'all are getting into the weeds here. I love it.
Tell Coach I said, what's up? What you see him?
I will. You know, I was training in Myrtle Beach, which is where I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Leo Silveira. And he had just moved here from Brazil, so I was really getting into it, and I was, you know, training with a lot of guys that were from Brazil, and it was just a really cool environment to be in. And although I don't, you know, train in a professional space, it was very, very cool to have it as like a hobby and something to kind of pass time with.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sure y'all can both attest to the fact that it probably gives you a certain level of discipline. It probably permeates into the rest of your life, right? Like all of these skills and the training that you go through.
Well, when I started training, it was really a bucket list thing. You know, I had no background. I just started at 21. It's kind of like a little bucket list thing. You know, I was 300 pounds when I started training. You know, it's like I had, you know, I had like delusions of grandeur, but I was also kind of like, okay, I dropped out of college. I was like, all right, you know, I'll do a couple fights, you know, depending on if, you know, if I lose a couple, I'll go back to college or whatever, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, it's just like totally changed the whole outlook of my life, you know what I'm saying? Started finding success. Like I said, you know, you have confidence that you didn't have before, you know what I mean? And you know, the discipline, you know what I'm saying? It's like one of those things where, like, sports can translate to regular life, you know what I'm saying? When you deal with hardships in sports, like, that can very well, you know, when you have a hard time in life, you know, it's like, okay, all right. Don't quit. Don't be a wimp, you know what I'm saying? Man up, you know what I'm saying? Handle your business, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, no, martial arts has done a lot of good things for me.
Yeah. I mean, Amro, what would you like to ask Brian? I know you're
Honestly,
so
I've
you're
got
so excited.
a lot of questions, but just what was the turning point in your career? You know, where did you think, oh, I really want to be in the UFC after this?
Well, like I said, I mean, when I first started training, in my head, because especially since I started so late, I was like, all right, whenever I lose my first fight, that's when I'll like chill out and I'll get like a regular job. But I actually got knocked out in my very first amateur fight. Got knocked out with a head kick in my very first game. Went viral and everything. Very embarrassing. And so I was like, well, you know, I can't go out like that. You know what I mean? And so then I kept on fighting. Won the next 8, became like a highly ranked amateur. And somewhere in between those 8 fights, I was like, yeah, I think this is just what I'm going to do. You know what I'm saying? I think I'm pretty good at this. I think I'm going to push and, you know, try to become one of the best in the world.
And then ended up winning season 29.
And, you know, ended up becoming one of the best in the world, you know what I mean?
So how's the local community showed you some love? You know, I know that you found your gym here, you know, you have your family here, your friends, but, you know, have you walked outside in public and people were like, wow, that's Brian Battle?
Yeah, no, it's, you know, there's always like, anytime I go somewhere, there's always some like, you know, random guy between the ages of like 15 and 30 who's like, hey, are you Brian Battle? You know what I mean? It's
that includes me.
But nah, it's really cool. You know, it's definitely like I'm not the most, you know, famous person by any stretch of the imagination, but like the love is like palpable. You know what I'm saying? Like I definitely feel like I take the energy from all of Charlotte into every fight. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel the support and the love like going into these fights. So it really means a lot to me. You know what I mean?
You know, you fought last time in Charlotte, 2023, May of 2023, and you knocked out Gabe Green in 14 seconds, which he was favored to win that fight.
Goofy decision.
How is that feeling, you know, walking into an arena with all the Charlotte fans, all these people watching you, even in the region, you know?
Now, I tell you, that whole situation was like a movie, right? Because I'd always, like I said, coming up, you know what I'm saying, when you're fighting as an amateur, I had a former employer put it this way, and I thought it was very well put. Like, you're like a struggling artist, you know? Like, you're not making any money. You're working whatever jobs you can to pay the bills. You know, I remember I'm driving to go coach kids at like a kid tournament, and you know I'm driving there and I'm like daydreaming about fighting at the Spectrum Center in front of all my friends and family, and like, you know, I'm getting teary-eyed. One time someone's parents, they drove by me, they were trying to like wave to me. I'm sitting in my car like just daydreaming, getting emotional about this fight. And, you know, it's like the likelihood of that ever happening is like pretty slim, you know what I'm saying, especially considering how rarely the UFC comes to Charlotte. And like this fight, I wasn't supposed to fight Gabe. Another person was supposed to fight Gabe, and someone else pulled out. And someone let me know that, hey, this guy pulled out. I messaged my agent, hey, I'll fight Gabe. You know, he's like, oh, yeah, you will? I was like, yeah. At the time I took that fight, the fight was still, the location was to be decided. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know it was in Charlotte. I thought it was going to be somewhere else. I had no idea it was going to be Charlotte. I'm driving from the strength and conditioning gym to my regular gym, and I had a teammate in the car with me. He was like, "Oh, you're fighting in Charlotte?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm fighting. I think it's going to be over here, over here." He's like, "No." And he shows me his phone and said, like, I said, UFC Charlotte. I was like, wait, that's the day I'm supposed to be fighting. And I'm telling you, man, I was driving, and I had to pick up my nephew from school the whole way. I'm not making eye contact. I'm sitting there crying. I'm like, oh, this is going to be. And once again, like, I was the second fight on the card. Like, if you go to a lot of cards, people don't normally start showing up till, like, around the main event. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of people there, but I'm the only person from Carolina on the card. So I walk out for the second fight, and like once again, the love and support, it was like a champion's ovation. It was like, I was like, whoa, this is, and I think it affected the other guy too, because Gabe came out crazy. He came out crazy, threw a 15-punch combination. I was like, hey, well, you sure you want to do this, big dog? You know, say, all right, that's what you want to do.
I heard the roar in the arena.
Boom, hit him with that right hand. He melts. You know what I'm saying? He melts. He collapses, and that's one of those things where it's like, there's nothing else in life that will feel like that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want it to end. Like, you see me, I'm still like trying to like get the crowd like don't stop cheering. You know what I'm saying? It was incredible. It was really like a movie. So it was like one of those things where it's like, I'm really fortunate and blessed. You know what I mean? And you know, we're gonna have to bring the UFC back to Charlotte one day. You know, I'll be a little bit higher up on the card when that happens.
I'm sure that's extremely important to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I can tell that you have a big heart. I can see when you talked about picking up your nephew and the emotions that you felt. I know you've got kids.
Yeah.
How do you hope that they, you know, look at this and maybe take away lessons, or, you know, what I guess, you know, what is your message to them, and maybe anyone else who's just having a dream, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be mixed martial arts, UFC. It could be anything.
No, it's because I think it's pretty similar. Like, to come up with anything is pretty similar. You know what I'm saying? You know, very rarely is like the road smooth to getting to where you want to get, to, you know, getting to the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like perseverance. You know what I'm saying? If you genuinely like love it, and you genuinely like stick with it, and you're just like, yo, you know, no matter what bad happens, no matter what, you know, tries to take me off course, like, as long as you stay consistent, you stay grinding, good things happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the way it works. If you do good things, eventually good things will come back to you. You know what I mean? So it's just like, not to get discouraged and to get down on yourself, and, you know, don't look at other people. You know what I'm saying? Don't look at other people. Focus on yourself. Just get a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? Take things one step at a time, one day at a time, and you'd be surprised how things work out in your favor.
Amro, I know you had a couple other questions.
I have
I know
a lot of questions.
like an hour-long
I mean, I can just pick
conversation.
one out of. Was fighting? I know that you said that fighting wasn't always part of your plan, but how long do you see yourself doing it for now?
Man,
Is this something you think you're going to carry on? That's it for the rest of your life? Is this?
No, it's hard, man. It's a hard way to make money. You know what I mean? And you know, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like you have a window with it, you know what I'm saying? And I don't want to like be in a place where like I'm older, physically I'm declining, and I'm like trying to fight for money. You know, it's like I fight because I love it and I want to be the best in the world. You know what I mean? So it's like the moment I feel like I can't be the best in the world is probably when I'll just like step back and figure out what I'm gonna do next. But you know, right now I still feel like I can be the best in the world, and, you know what I'm saying, I might be the best in the world. You know what I'm saying? We'll see. You know what I'm saying? Keep on lining up people and see what happens. You know what I mean?
So you're fighting August 16th, and you're fighting at middleweight.
Yes, sir.
Which is very different from the last few fights that you've had at welterweight. Is this like a permanent move up, or are you just kind of playing around in divisions, or are you kind of looking for a ranked fight later on after this?
We'll see what the matchmakers got to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, the matchmakers are my boss, so we'll see. I feel comfortable at either division. I'd prefer to go back to welterweight just because, like you said, I've put a lot more work in at welterweight. There's a lot of guys that I've talked junk to at welterweight that I would like to settle the score with, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you know, I'm a fighter, you know what I'm saying? So whoever they give me to fight, that's who I'm going to fight, you know what I'm saying? Whether that's middleweight or welterweight.
And you're coming off now about 4 wins out of your last 5, and 1 being a no contest.
We can just call it 5 wins in a row.
Yeah, we could.
I was beating him up. I was beating him up. If you didn't see that fight. He ran away like a
Before the eye poke.
Yeah,
I saw that, and I remember watching that fight and thinking, yeah, he could have kept going.
No, 10,000%. I'm not even gonna get into it right now.
Please do. What do you got to say?
You think this upcoming bout is going to be more of the same, what you've been doing? Because, I mean, you only have a couple of decisions in the UFC.
Yeah.
And the rest of your wins are coming off finishes. You know, you have 2 or 3 submission wins, 3 knockouts. What are you looking at now? You know, what are you hoping to get on August 16th?
No, we're getting a finish one way or another. You know what I'm saying? Whether I gotta drag him down to the pits of, you know, the 3rd level of hell. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get the finish one way or another. You know, we could do this the easy way or the hard way. The choice is his. But one way or another, we're not going to the judges' scorecard. You know what I mean?
This has been such an amazing conversation. I have seen a lot of smiles here in this Live Impact News studio, which, you know, sometimes we get to report on really tough stuff, and it does hit us home, you know, hard in the heart. But this is really, I can tell, like lifting some spirits having you here in the studio.
Awesome.
So we so appreciate it. Is there anything you want to leave us with before we let you go? Things that you're looking forward to, messages to the fans, anything, whatever you'd like to share.
Well, yeah, I guess. On the outro, it's like, once again, thank you for having me. You know what I'm saying? This is really a big honor. You know what I'm saying? And then just a message to the fans. Thank you to all the real fans and the people that have kept on supporting me. It's like, as you would know, I had a fight in Paris where my profile really skyrocketed and no one had anything bad to say about me. And then I had this fight in December, whereas even though I won the fight, you know, a lot of the fan base turned on me because they didn't like my performance. And you see how fast, you know, things can switch just like that. As quickly as, you know, you can come up and everyone loves you, as quickly as everyone can kind of like turn their back and say bad things. And so, but, you know, in Charlotte, it's not like that. You know what I'm saying? My people in Charlotte, you know what I'm saying? Y'all my rock. You know what I'm saying? I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for the support. And if anything, I'd say go to the local fights. You know what I'm saying? Find some young guys who are on the come up. It means the world to a young guy. You know, go to a local fight and fight in front of not just his friends and family, but, you know, a packed crowd at, you know, the Grady Cole Center. You know what I mean? It makes a big difference, and, you know, it gives you confidence for when you do take that next step up, because you're used to the pressure and, you know, the eyes being on you and everything like that. So thank you for all the support, but don't just stop the support at me. You know what I'm saying? There's a bunch of young fighters, a bunch of guys on the come up that are right on the cusp of being at that next level. Keep on supporting those guys too.
I love that you took the time to acknowledge other folks too, and making sure that they're getting their flowers as well. That's so great. I just love to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amro, do you have tears in your eyes?
That was a beautiful interview.
I know, you're so excited about this. This was such a pleasure. Brian Battle, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Impact News. We wish you all the best.
Thank
we'll be
you
watching.
so much. Thank you.
All right. Amro, I'll let y'all too maybe take some pictures, selfie. I know you're dying to do it. Folks, keep it here on Live Impact News. As we talked about, we've got a lot of coverage still to come here. A lot of it is going to be centered around the reflections and reactions to the passing of Ozzy Osbourne. So once again, a live look at the Hollywood Walk of Fame, where fans are gathering to pay their respects. You can see that they have amassed, I guess, a makeshift memorial, if you will, with flowers and a wreath, and some folks even laying candles. And we're seeing, you know, records that folks are putting down there, and really just a lot of people are reflecting on the legacy here of this rock legend. So we've got a couple of chats coming up, as we mentioned. Just in a couple of moments, we'll be speaking with a local expert, if you will, from the music scene, who's going to weigh in on the legacy that Mr. Osbourne is leaving behind. And we also, this is pretty neat as well, coming at 8 o'clock, we'll be chatting with the tribute band, really like the tribute band from here in the Carolinas. And so we're going to be seeing, you know, their thoughts on the news of the day. So with that, I think we're going to do a little bit of a switch out with our guests here. Folks, let's have, before we do that, updates today from Newton. Okay, so we actually had this for breaking news yesterday around this time here on Live Impact News. We are checking up with these new charges that we're seeing filed against a Newton police officer following a traffic stop, which unfortunately turned into a deadly encounter. There was a shooting. Now that officer is facing charges as the district attorney has decided that that shooting was not justified. Let's listen into our Jesse Pierre's latest reporting on the story.
Carlos Uribe made his court appearance today, and he is now out of jail on a $100,000 secured bond.
It's kind of a tragedy because you wouldn't really think something like this would happen.
Newton Police Lieutenant Carlos Uribe faced the judge Tuesday. He is charged with second-degree murder after a police chase turned deadly. Police say Uribe shot 21-year-old Camden Childers following a pursuit.
I think there's probably like 8 or 9 cop cars, and they were chasing a guy on a motorcycle, and the guy on the motorcycle was really going slow. I mean, he honestly was probably going like 20, 25 miles an hour.
The incident happened on June 26 on U.S. Highway 70 in Conover. Police say they tried to pull Childers over because of some traffic violations, but he would not stop. Following the chase, there was a collision and then an altercation between Childers and Uribe. At some point, Uribe fired his weapon, killing Childers. The district attorney found Uribe's actions were not justified. He was placed on administrative leave after the shooting and turned himself into police following the charges. Uribe did have to surrender his passport, and he cannot have any contact with the victim's family. He'll be back in court August 18. In Newton, Jesse Pierre, WCNC Charlotte.
All right, so folks, we did want to mention as well, as far as a programming note, that tomorrow we are going to be speaking with the attorneys representing the family members of the gentleman who was killed in this shooting. So keep it here, of course, not only throughout the rest of this evening, but throughout the rest of the week, as we'll have more coverage of this big story out of Newton still to come. With that, we want to get back to the news about Ozzy Osbourne. And so we've been hearing from so many different folks on what his legacy means to them and how they're going to remember him. You can see, of course, here we've got some footage, but just an iconic personality, an iconic appearance. I think everyone, when you see him, you're like, or you hear Ozzy Osbourne, you picture him. He's had so many different, I guess, like tendrils in the entertainment industry: reality television, musician, and as we learned from our Larry Sprinkle today, actor, because they acted in a film together. Can you believe that? We're joined by Eric White right now, who is a program director with the Fox here in Charlotte. Thanks so much for joining us. I can't believe, I mean, we're reporting on this today.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts, when you heard the news?
Oh, well, everything stopped in our studios immediately. All meetings, everything. It's just, okay, we got all hands on deck. Ozzy died. Like, what can we do to really, pay tribute to this absolute icon? We were talking about it today. One thing that we were all discussing is when you think about a Mount Rushmore of the greatest artists of all time, Ozzy's not on the Mount Rushmore because he's the mountain. So
I was wondering where you're going with that, and I'm glad that's how that finished.
No, I mean, every artist, modern artist in rock music, anyone who has ever, played in that genre, he's royalty. He's a god. So it's truly a sad day, but also kind of in a weird, beautiful way, right? He left us with that final performance in Birmingham, and obviously he left us with so much amazing music, many of which we play on the Fox, and so many people get to celebrate. And it's so there's a silver lining for sure that he left behind 50 plus years of incredible music for us.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I mentioned this earlier when we were first breaking this news, the fact that I sat down with our Larry Sprinkle, who, like I said, had done a film with him.
Yeah.
And, I just feel like you just never know when we're going to lose these greats. So anytime there's like a chance to see them in person, see them perform, I'm like, you got to do it, because unfortunately, you just don't know if that's going to be the last time.
I mean, think about, people who saw Metallica earlier this year. How many more times are they going to tour?
Right.
Realistically? And it's just, when you get a chance to do that, do it. I mean, like, that's a crazy story from Larry. That's incredible. But think about all those people that get to say, I was there when Ozzy did this, or like I saw this. Like, you think about Ozfest that came through Charlotte back in the early 2000s. You got to see him with Black Sabbath, and you see him in, not so much his prime, but some of his, strongest days as an artist. It's really, really crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we understand that y'all are doing a tribute of
Yes.
sorts as well on the Fox, all Ozzy all the time.
My whole afternoon show from 4 to 7 was just Ozzy, just nonstop Ozzy, Black Sabbath, some of his greats, some of his deeper cuts, a lot of those that maybe you don't hear every day. It's just, again, you have a plethora, like a full encyclopedia of incredible music from him. So we're definitely leaning into that quite a bit, and naturally and rightfully so. I mean, he is, an absolute legend in our genre and an absolute legend in music. I mean, there does not matter what age you are, whether you're 8 or 78, you know the name Ozzy Osbourne. He's a legend.
Yeah. I mean, and I can say, like, I feel like I like some of the originals as far as the music, but I don't know if this will offend purists, if you will, of Ozzy Osbourne, but when he did that song with Post Malone, and I heard his voice on that track, I was like, what?
So, fun story.
Great.
So sometimes in radio, we get access to songs before other people do, right?
Yeah.
And so when the songs Take What You Want, when that song was first being put in front of us, we had to sign an NDA because it was a Post Malone song, but we weren't allowed to talk about who the feature was. And within 2 notes, immediately all of us looked at each other and was like, is that Ozzy?
Yeah.
What, are you kidding me?
Like the iconic voice. You recognize it immediately. And I was just like, this song kills.
It's so good. It's awesome. And that's the thing, is like, you don't have to be a purist to appreciate him. I mean, there's people like that grew up with the Osbourne show and got to see the fun side and the funny side of Ozzy, right? And so got to know his family, got to know his quirks and everything. And so, you have those purists, but it's also so great for everybody else who got to really just share in who he was as a person.
Yeah. I mean, how are you personally reflecting on him? I mean, I feel like maybe it could be a complicated reflection, you considering like the larger scope of his life. And I remember one of the first things I learned about him was the bat thing.
Obviously, the bat is iconic, right?
I know.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, like, how are you personally remembering him?
I think immediately I go to, like, the times growing up with my dad. My dad always had a record player, and so we'd rotate various different albums. And I remember the first time he played me the Black Sabbath's first album, and I must have been, like, 8 or 9, and I was just like, what is this? Can I get more of it? Please show me more. This is fantastic. And I think that's something that, a lot of people do. It's just, you might not have a direct correlation to Ozzy, but that's the great part about musicians, right? You feel like you know them without even having ever met them. And so that's really cool when you can reflect on that and reflect on that first time you heard that record. I start to think back to the first time somebody ever heard a Black Sabbath record. Yeah. It was 1970, and suddenly they're introduced to this brand new band on the radio. And what they felt and what that was like, oh man, maybe I'll check them out a little bit more. It's pretty cool, man. So I think there's some cool different angles you can look at with it. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure like a lot of paving the way, because when we think about music nowadays, it's hard to kind of even separate genres. Like, for example, when you're thinking of heavy metal or whatever, it's hard at this point to say like this person is a legend in heavy metal. They've only had an impact on heavy metal, because you think about all the crossovers and how folks as artists, they're just taking stuff from what they like across the board and they're using it.
I mean, you talk about Post Malone. That's a great example. Post Malone did a country record after he did a rock-centric record, you know? And so you get all that. Of course, heavy metal is certainly a polarizing genre. It's not for everybody, but there are plenty of people who have taken from Ozzy. Rappers like Lil Uzi Vert consider Ozzy to be an idol. Youngblood, who's a very popular alternative artist, in those videos when he was in his final performance, Youngblood's, mind you, Ozzy's in a wheelchair, and Youngblood is like below him, even like almost like bowing before like the king. It's crazy. And so again, there's a lot of love and a lot of artists that even not, whether it's heavy metal or not, just like consider this man to be the icon.
Well, I mean, you remember the T-Pain War Pigs?
Yeah, incredible cover.
And then everyone discovered T-Pain can sing.
This man in silk pajamas did the best cover of War Pigs ever. It was fantastic. And Ozzy gave him his flowers.
Yeah.
Ozzy was like, this is incredible. Nobody else can cover my song now. T-Pain is the standard.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's something that I think a lot of people understate as well, is the love that Ozzy has for other musicians, the love that he had for the other members of Black Sabbath, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Bill Ward, his former guitar player, Randy Rhoads, who unfortunately passed away in the 80s due to a plane accident, helicopter accident. There's so many people and so many great artists he's worked with, and he gives them their flowers nonstop. And that should be a lesson to a lot of musicians out there. You know, there's plenty of them. You know, remember that, like, this is fun, and, like, music's fun. And if you're working with some great musicians, you know, just give them the love. You know, show them, like, hey, that's great. I love this. I love what you did there. That's what Ozzy did too.
Yeah, I know James, our producer, had a question as well that you wanted to bring in. James, what do you?
I did, E. So I'm in my 30s, so my experience with Ozzy is through radio stations like your own.
Sure.
You're listening to classic rock. And I listened to your program today, and I was going, oh, I didn't know that was him. Like, oh, I had forgotten about that one. So I'm wondering, like, obviously he is famous, he is an icon, but how do you connect that with a younger audience who maybe didn't come up on him?
That's a great question. I mean, being a younger, I'm in my 30s as well, and being on a radio station that certainly targets a little bit older crowd. I think a great way is just like how you compare them to some of their favorite artists now, right? Like how can you get that crossover? Also, great music is great music. And I think that's something where, you know, if you're like, hey, if you're listening to this, try this out. That's something we do on our social media quite a bit because, you know, obviously when you're on TikTok and such, you know, you might hear a Sabrina Carpenter song. Well, what if that Sabrina Carpenter song reminds you of a Stevie Nicks song? You can correlate and kind of open up a whole new horizon to people. I think that's a beautiful thing about music. Again, it's just, you know, regardless of generation, you can really just find something that someone can love. It's great, man. It's really cool.
What kind of feedback are you getting from your listeners right now, you know, on this news? I feel like it wasn't too long ago we were talking about, you know, sad news, you know, from the Beach Boys front. And I just feel like there's...
Brian Wilson, legend.
Yeah, it's just, we're getting to that point where I think we're kind of losing some greats.
It's a hard reality, right? It's, I think a lot of fans... I mean, today, first of all, it was request on request, like, hey, can you play this? Can you do this? And, but I think more than anything else, it's appreciation. Again, you know, these are things that we'll have forever. We won't lose these pieces of art that were created. And so I think it's just overall appreciation and love. I mean, you get those, you know, that are emotional, obviously. And so, you know, naturally you want to like be there to comfort and, you know, give them a reason to, you know, help celebrate as well, celebrate the life. So, but I'll tell you what, I think we have a lot of passionate music lovers here in Charlotte. And so they're just along for the ride more than anything else. It's great. So, yeah.
I just think about, you know, the personal connection that music can have for so many folks, either, you know, a certain song that you just love it because it just gets stuck in your head for some reason, or like maybe it takes you back to a certain time in your life.
Sure.
And you're just like,
I was hearing Changes today and I started getting a little misty-eyed because like it's kind of, you know, it's one of those heavy songs, you know, a little bit deeper songs from Black Sabbath. And, you know, it's those certain moments you can kind of like recall where you were when you were there. It's great, man. It's really great. So, you know, hearing about those stories is pretty fun. So
Any other, you know, tributes you want to talk about going forward? I know, are there any other plans, I guess, you know, to pay respects?
Sure. I mean, well, you know, keep on, you know, plugging, you know, pumping along with Ozzy on 99.7 The Fox. Tomorrow morning, Woody and Wilcox will do a nice little tribute on 106.5 The End as well for Ozzy. Obviously, those guys, you know, have gotten some great opportunities to, you know, experience Ozzy in concert and such. So, you know, they're definitely super excited for that. So keep on checking out that. And yeah, just overall, just super excited to continue to just honor this incredible human being. Like, truly, it's just, this is like, when you think about like pivotal people in music, this is without question one of the most. So yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. All right. E. White, thank you so much for joining us from over at the Fox. We appreciate it. And like we mentioned, everyone, we're going to continue to have reactions from folks and talk about the tributes as we shared, you know, just a few moments ago. We've got the live look that we've been keeping an eye on over the Hollywood Walk of Fame, where people continue to bring remembrances, whether it's, you know, an album. There you can see right now someone is leaving. Oh, goodness. I can't tell if that is a cell phone that they're putting down there, but
maybe they're playing music.
Maybe they might be playing music. That's a good call, James. Flowers, candles. So this is happening right now. So this is over on the West Coast. We'll continue to check in, and coming at 8 o'clock, we'll have more from that tribute band we mentioned. So we'll do our due respects here on Live Impact News, and we'll also keep you abreast of the very latest on the news front as well. E. White, thank you so much. James, where would we like to go? I know we got a couple live feeds I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, I think we're going to take a listen to Larry Sprinkle's recollection of working with Ozzy.
That's great. I love that. So with that, we'll go ahead and turn you over to our Larry Sprinkle. As we talked about just a few moments ago before we chatted with Nick Carboni, we are on the coverage of this breaking entertainment news. Some sad news for folks who either, know him from reality TV or from the large, litany of music that he has put together and the impact that he's had on music. But heavy metal singer, legendary frontman of Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, has passed away at the age of 76. And this comes actually just weeks after a farewell show that he did in Birmingham, England. And we shared a snippet of our Larry Sprinkle sitting down and chatting with Sharon Osbourne, Ozzy Osbourne's wife. This was back in 2014, and we were teasing the fact that we were trying to round up Larry and bring him in to get some updated insight on the legacy of Mr. Osbourne. Larry is here joining us in the Live Impact News studio. Larry, we're so glad we could round you up.
I didn't have to go far. I was actually in the building. They probably didn't even realize I was still here, back in the cave I'm in most of the time. Yeah, it was quite a shock because I was not even aware of this until I got the call from Sharif, one of our managers here, that he passed away. Then obviously I read about it. So quite a shock, especially since it wasn't that long ago that he did his final performance, which was his final performance.
Yeah. I mean, this was a show we kind of alluded to that was in England, a reunion with Black Sabbath band members. I believe they played for 40,000 folks. And this did really mark the end of the touring career, following what we saw was a diagnosis back in 2020 of Parkinson's. And then there was a spinal surgery that caused him to put a hiatus on things back in 2023. So we know that he, did not have a great, diagnosis that he was working with, but a shock nonetheless. And we have all sorts of folks who are weighing in right now on, his legacy and what he means to them. And for folks who love music, it's kind of hard to a genre of music that maybe doesn't have some sort of tangential impact from Mr. Osbourne.
I had a chance to work with Ozzy back in 1986 on a movie called Trick or Treat, which is a very interesting film because it's a horror movie without blood. It's called High-Tech Horror. It was recently released last year and has gotten kind of I hate to say the term cult, but there's a group of people that are fanatics about that film. Gene Simmons from Kiss is also in it. Ozzy plays the part, not typecasting, he plays the part of an evangelist who hates rock and roll.
Oh, man.
It was such an interesting concept that you take someone who is such an adamant member of the rock and roll community to play the antithesis of what he was on stage. It was a fun time with him because at the time I worked with him, I had a chance to spend probably, we shot on about 3 days that I had a chance to spend with him, quite a number of hours each day. He turned out to be, at that time, 1986, he was kind of in between the areas of life when he seemed to be sober and not sober. That was a completely sober time for him. Down to earth, nice guy, completely honest. I had been in radio so much of my career at that point, had played his music on the air, and knew a lot of interesting things about him. And I remember in a bit of conversation, I said, "Hey, Ozzy, your reputation precedes you." And I said, I remember specifically about one particular concert you did where someone, I think that there was a bat, threw it on stage, and he took it and bit its head off. I said, "We know you did that, and then you kept doing it." And he said, "Larry, I got to be honest with you. Yes, I did do it one time, but the rest of the times it was just a rubber bat, and no one really knew. They thought it was the real thing every time." I mean, he was open and honest, and I said, Ozzy, your career has been enhanced by a lot of chemicals. And he goes, "Let me tell you something." He says, "Right now, I'm almost totally sober. Drugs have gone, and I'm still having a little bit of alcohol." That was 1986. So we know during the reality series he did, he had some dependency problems, and then at some point again, he overcame all of that. And then he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's incredible to kind of have that insight. And I know you mentioned, the reputation preceding him. Like, a lot of folks know about that bat story. I think that's pretty cool that you actually got to ask him about it directly.
Yeah.
And it is great to hear, the good reviews of actually getting to meet him and work with him.
And spend some time with him.
Yeah.
And I remember, if you ever have a chance, you can find it the film Trick or Treat. But in the one particular scenes that we worked in, they had to braid his hair down, and literally, it's about the length mine now. And he looked at it and he goes, and I remember him sitting there in makeup and having the hair braided down. He goes, if my mom sees me right now, she'll want me to come back to England and be a truck driver again. Because I guess at some point in his life, as a teenager, maybe he was a truck driver. But he turned out to be a nice guy. I mean, all this crazy reputation with that little bit of devil in his eyes, and but down to earth. And at that time he said, "I've met this wonderful lady who's straightening me out. Her name is Sharon," who eventually became his wife. I spoke to her, and then was it a couple of years ago? I spoke to his daughter, and it was an interview that I did here at the station, and it was something that I can't remember what she was doing. And I said, "Hey, by the way, tell your father that the guy who worked with him," I knew he didn't know my name, but the guy that worked with him in Trick or Treat said hello." And she said, well, they had just been looking at some still shots from that movie, some black and whites that they had shot, and she said, "Yeah, I'll definitely tell him that you said hello." So that's my last communication directly to Ozzy, was through his daughter, Kelly Osbourne.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. You have so many different connections in the music world, and you alluded to this as well. Your chat with Sharon Osbourne. We played that for folks just a few moments ago. Any takeaways from speaking with her? Obviously, you had great reviews of Mr. Osbourne, but it seemed like a really cordial chat. And she talked about coming to Charlotte, and she's been here many times. That's pretty neat.
It definitely was, and she basically did, and even though you saw their reality show, and he was, but it was a reality show, so I'm sure some of that may have been embellished, but she really did take this person who was totally out of control and bring him back to reality. And managed Black Sabbath for a period of time, and then managed him in his music career. And that relationship was so totally honest. I mean, we saw that in the reality show and everything, but I think she really brought a balance to a guy's life who had been off the rails. He had been as completely out there as anybody had been. And the saddest part was the fact that his diagnosis. But you know what? I think if you could have spoken to him, I think he would have said that he did everything that he wanted to do in life, and he accomplished that last mission, and that was to do that last show with Black Sabbath.
Yeah, I mean, what a treat, I guess, for fans at this point, knowing that they got to have one last moment with him. And sometimes I feel like with musical artists, you never know when that's going to happen. And whenever they come through town, whoever it is, if you have like a legend that happens to come through town and you're like, should I go? And I always feel like you got to go when you get the chance, because you just never know if that's going to be the last time in some cases. Especially in that business, because it takes so many people a young life. So, he lived a life to 76 years old, but you take someone like Elvis, who died in his early 40s, who really didn't have a full life, but obviously accomplished so much in his life as well. Yeah. Now, you alluded to the chat with Kelly. We actually found it. We found it in the archives. You did? Yeah. Our producer, James, is extraordinaire.
If anybody can find something in our archives, it's James.
Yeah. And I believe you did that interview that we're about to share. Do you want to roll it? Do you want to hear a little bit of it?
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
okay,
great.
Let's do it.
Thank you. You tell your dad I said hello. In 1986, Ozzy and I worked together in a movie called Trick or Treat. I worked with him. He played.
No,
this,
you did not
I
work
did.
on that movie.
I was the guy.
Oh
I was
my
the interviewer.
gosh.
Yeah, the TV talk shows who interviewed your dad. He was playing a televangelist who hated rock and roll of all things.
I remember that. We just found all the pictures from the set from that when my parents moved house. So
yes.
that's
So
really interesting.
Tell Ozzy I said hello.
What a coinky dink.
Yes. Let's talk about. Now this is so interesting. This is not fashions for people, but it's a whole different thing. It's fashions for your pet. Tell us about this
It is
project.
fashion for. It's called Pet Express.
Well, I mean, we love the pet stuff for sure. I know you do too, Larry.
Yes.
But that's pretty neat. We saw the clips, and you talked about how they basically doctored up his appearance. I mean, it's unrecognizable.
I don't think anybody would ever known that was Ozzy Osbourne.
Pretty neat.
In the way they braided his hair and everything. As you can see, he was, and Charlie Martin Smith directed that film. Charlie Martin Smith is a character actor who's been in so many movies, and he was such a great director because in shooting that sequence, Charlie Martin Smith came and said, Larry, Ozzy is very nervous about doing this. He's never done a film before. He doesn't know what to do. He said, I want you to go, and we actually shot this at the NBC affiliate in Wilmington. A lot of films are shot in Wilmington. And so it was, the set was designed, it was a talk show set. He said, just do the show, get him comfortable, and we'll just go with the flow. And so we did that. So I think that was from about an hour and a half of just talking to him, and then slowly evolving that into now he's the character, this evangelist who hates rock and roll. And you saw him, he reacted, and it was real. It was totally real on his part in that film, the character he played. And then you didn't see the album. You saw one album. I'm not going to repeat the name of it, but the other albums that were on the set, on the table in front of me, were all Ozzy or Black Sabbath albums. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, goodness, it's terrible what these rock and rollers are doing to our young minds. They're just taking their minds and making them trash what they're doing. So that was from the movie itself. Yeah.
Very ironic.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts? As we wrap things up here, how will you remember him? How do you think, based on your experience, so connected with the music industry as well and radio, how do you think fans are going to remember him? I just feel like he touched so many, different genres, if you will. And I even think about, a song that I loved, which was a relatively recent song that he did with Post Malone. So what a cool crossover. That was 2019. Take What You Want. I mean, I just think he's dabbled in everything at this point.
Literally and figuratively, without a doubt. And I actually saw Black Sabbath way back at a concert in Memphis. Black Sabbath, Ted Nugent, and a group called Brownsville Station. And so I saw the group in that era when they were at the top of the charts, all the successful albums, and then getting to work with him and seeing him from a different perspective. I think his influence in what we call heavy metal was monumental. I think that what he did for the music industry he was a character, and he was a caricature of himself. But I think he provided to the music world a character, a personality that no one had seen. He was so Ozzy. There's no one else like him. If you had a chance to see him at any point in his career, or just seeing the man, he made a mark. He definitely is a part of rock and roll history, and his memories will always be there. We'll always remember him. And when you say Ozzy, you know exactly who it is. I mean, there's only one Ozzy. There will never be anyone like him. And so in the moments that we all had a chance to share what he provided, he's unforgettable. He's an unforgettable character.
Indeed. I think that's very well said. Larry, we want to mention, too, we did get a statement from the family. So we just wanted to share that for folks. This is coming to the whole family, from the whole family, rather. Reading, quoted as, with more sadness than mere words can and convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne passed away this morning. He was with his family. He was surrounded by love, and we ask everyone to respect our family privacy at this time. So, sounds like he was surrounded by family, which is a comfort to hear.
Yeah.
Larry, thank you so much for stopping by Live Impact News.
Glad you tracked me down.
I know. We had the search dogs out. Where is Larry? We heard he's around the building.
Yeah, somewhere.
Always great insights.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And of course, folks, as we mentioned just before we went to that earlier recorded interview, that we will have a live interview coming up actually in just moments. And this will be another reflection on the late Ozzy Osbourne. Really looking forward to it. It's a tribute band, actually, we're going to hear from. With that, we have a new feed that we want to get to here on Live Impact News. Scary situation. Hopefully everything turns out all right. But we've got some live aerials coming to us from Illinois. This is Lake County area. We're seeing authorities there on the beach looking for a teen who apparently went under the water while swimming in Lake Michigan. This is specifically Zion's Illinois State Beach Park. And you can see there are a lot of different crews out here. We're told sheriff's offices out there on boats. They've launched drones, multiple drones flying over the area. They've got the fire department on scene. Coast Guard is en route, so really they're pulling out all the stops. And very scary, as we mentioned, this is a 14-year-old boy who went under the water and did not resurface. And you've got lots of folks, as you can see, as these aerials kind of pan around to different looks at the lake, that folks are kind of gathered around at the water's edge, hoping for the best and just watching the sheer law enforcement presence that is out there. Lots of law enforcement boats in the water, as you can see. And keep in mind, once again, this is a raw live feed coming to us from our affiliate out there. So no control over the direction of the camera shot, only the fact that we can bring it in. But if we start to get some better aerials, if we get an update, we will definitely bring that to you here on Live Impact News. So we'll watch that in the background. Meantime, we do actually have the president speaking right now. So moving to our 3 box, of course, there's the search for the missing swimmer on the top right. Senate is having a discussion right now on the floor, that's bottom right, and then towards the left in the bigger picture the president is speaking. Not quite sure the topic that will be touched on here specifically, but all we know is he's hosting congressional Republicans in the East Room of the White House right now. So we're going to listen in. Once again, we have an interview coming up at 8 o'clock, so we may have to dip out to get to that, and if we can, we'll try to rejoin some of these feeds.
Oh, and the next day, we have some other ones coming in. We're doing things that have never been done in this country before, and our country is becoming very rich again, and that's the way it should be. They're not taking advantage of us, and it's very good. But Howard will never go back into private. He had a big company, but the biggest deal you've ever made is like a quarter of a line of the deal we just left, right? So it's a little tough. Scott Turner is here. It's terrific. Scott, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Scott. Good job. Good job, Scott. Thank you very much. In fact, Scott, come here. Come here. I'm going to have Scott say grace. Give a little prayer, yes? I hope the television stays on. They have a tendency to turn off, but I think that's good. What do you think, Brian? Yes? Come on, Scott. And nobody does it like this man. He's better at this than he is at housing, but he's good at housing. That's great, Scott. Thank you, man.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mr. President. We're so grateful for you. I'm grateful for your sacrifice and for your heart for people, your heart for this country, your heart to do what's right no matter what.
Thank you, Scott.
And I'm so grateful that the Lord called us to be together for such a time as this. And so I really appreciate you. And I know I can speak for everyone out here that you are a tremendous leader. And we thank God for you. And we thank God for the First Lady.
Thank you.
And your family and everything that you've gone through for this country. And we're proud to stand with you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's pray. Father in heaven, we thank you. We're so grateful that we have this time to stand in your presence. Father God, we are at the White House. Father God, the most powerful place in the land. And Father, we thank you that President Trump allows us to take this time and go before the throne of heaven and give you reverence. You are the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and Jesus, we thank you. We thank you that you love us so much. God, we thank you for this awesome privilege to serve the people of the United States of America. Father, the Bible says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And Father, we put you on your rightful place tonight on the thrones of our heart. And Father God, on the throne of this country. Father God, we humble ourselves before you tonight, and we thank you for your goodness, for your mercy, for your grace. Father, we pray for those precious people in Central Texas, Father God, that have lost loved ones, who have lost children, who have lost family members. Thank you, God, for those on the ground who are working hard to, Father God, to help those to be recovered and rescued and restored. And Father, we pray in the days ahead, it's going to get real dark, but Father, we know that you're a light in the midst of darkness. Lord, thank you for the people of Texas, that they are so resilient. And God, we thank you that you are so faithful in the midst of the storm. Now, Father, tonight we thank you for every congressional member, their staff, their families, their spouses. Lord, thank you for giving us favor to pass this one big, beautiful bill and what it does for the people of this great country, not just for now, but for the posterity of our nation. And Lord, tonight, may you be glorified in our time together. And Lord, I pray that you will bless our president. God, everything he puts his hands to, we pray you will bless it. Strengthen him. Father, give him wisdom like never before. Open his eyes to see like he's never seen, and his ears to hear your sweet, small voice in the midnight hour. Lord, let him know that it is well with his soul. In Jesus' name, amen.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Scott. That's beautiful. Thank you very much. So nice. So we also want to thank Linda McMahon, who's right now, where are you, Linda? She's out negotiating with a lot of different people. What a great cabinet member in person, and she's working on bringing education back to the states where it belongs. And lots of other things like how come Harvard got $5 billion in the last year and a half or 2 years? $5 billion they got. Linda said, you know, you're not going to be happy. What? Harvard's getting billions and billions of dollars, and they're not spending it nicely, and they're very discriminatory and lots of other things. And she's got a tough judge. She's got a judge that would typically not be with us, but I don't want to say that because you never know what happens. But we'll win that case ultimately. We're going to win it. No decision made yet, but she's in the middle of a lot of things. But Linda, you have been unbelievable. Thank you very much. Great job you've done. And I said hello to Chris Wright. Chris is the most talented person. Doug actually said that I offered Doug Department of Energy noise. He said, I have somebody better. He's never said that in his whole life about anybody, Mary. He's never said that about anybody, but he said Chris Wright is so incredible, and he has turned. He's the #1 guy in the oil industry, and he left for, I won't even tell you the money he was making. It was crazy money, but he knew that, and he wanted this, and he and Doug have done an incredible job, and thank you, Chris, very much. And Doug Collins, where's Doug Collins? Doug Collins, what a great guy he's been. What a great guy. At the VA right now, you have a 92% approval rating. That's not bad. Let's see if you can get it up a little bit. Who are the 8%, right? But he's working on it. He is working on it. He's incredible. What a job. Thank you, Doug. What a great job you're doing. Appreciate it. As well as EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. Where's Lee? This guy. People don't know, he was a great lawyer, like top of the line, and then he became a congressman in a race that he had no chance to win. He won, and was a congressman like for 6 years or something, and was highly respected. And then he took a shot at running for governor of New York, even though people said it was almost impossible to even think about, and he almost won. He came so close, almost won. and I appointed him as the environmental czar. She's our environment czar, and what a job, secretary on the cabinet. She's got everything, and the job he's been doing is incredible because we have $16 trillion so far invested in our country. We've never had anything even close, and this is just really in the last 4 months, not 6 months. That's when we started accepting things and getting things going and getting them rock and rolling. And Lee is getting the permits for people so fast. You know, the biggest problem they had is we can't build if you're not going to give us the permits, or if it's going to take 9 years to get a permit and then get rejected. You know, they'd wait 9, 10, 12 years to do environmental impact statements, and at the end of 12 years, they'd get a rejection, 3-2. You know, they gave their lives to it. We don't do that anymore. He does it within weeks, and we really appreciate Lee. He's got an incredible staff, and we appreciate the job he's done. He's an unbelievable guy. OMB Director Russ Vought. Nobody knows the finances of this country and the waste, fraud, and abuse better than Russell. So, Russell, I want to thank you for doing such a great job. You're really in there fighting, and really was a big help during this whole situation that we had, Tom, right, with Russ. When we had to know the numbers, there's nobody that knows them better. He lives with them. Director of National Intelligence. Oh, where's Tulsi? She's like hotter than everybody. She's the hottest one in the room right now because she found out with certainty. I think we knew it before, in all fairness, Tulsi. But now you have certainty. She has all the documents. She has everything that you need. And she found out that Barack Hussein Obama led a group of people, and they cheated in the elections, and they cheated without question. It's not even a question. Would you say there's even a little question there, Tulsi? She says no. And you found things that nobody thought we'd ever find. And I'm very happy and very honored to have you with us. She's right now, by far, Speaker, she's hotter than you right now, Speaker. She's the hottest person in the room right now, Speaker. So, Tulsi, great job, and I know you have a lot more coming. She told me you've seen nothing yet. So I heard those rumors about you, but now I know they're true. So we're very proud of you, Tulsi. They cheated so badly, and ultimately it led to a loss in 2020, and it shouldn't have been a loss. It was a big victory. We won by a lot. We had to do it again. But if I thought we lost, I would never have run again. And this is a far more consequential election than it would have been if we did. That's the only thing I can say in favor of it. But we can't ever let that happen again to our country. Look at what happened in terms of inflation, in terms of so many things. But most importantly, maybe in terms of allowing millions and millions of people into our country that we shouldn't have. We shouldn't have these people in our country. And the levels of violence and things that we're seeing are so bad, and we're getting them out. And Tom Holman and Christie have done an incredible job. And but we're getting them out. But this should have never happened. It was like just a terrible, unforced error. The only thing that I can't figure out, I always like to figure the other side. Why would they do this? Why would they allow people to come into our country from all over the world, not just South America, but from Venezuela, but from all over the world they came, and they came by hundreds of thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands a day. When you look at some of these, they break down gates. We built hundreds of miles of wall. They didn't break down the wall, but anything that wasn't a wall, they were able to break it down. And they came in, though, by the millions, and we're going to be paying a price for this, so we are paying a price. It's all-consuming. And we have to get 11,888 murderers, many of them murdered more than one person. And they're in here, and some are already gone. We've gotten them out. Some we can't get out. We want to put them in jails because we're afraid they'll come back. They're so violent. And they used to say, no, these are the illegal immigrants, they said, are very kind people. Remember that? They used to say they don't commit crimes. No, they make our criminals look like extremely nice people. And we have to get them out, and it's a big job. but we're doing it and step
Hey,
by
folks,
step.
we are going to pivot away from this address of the president to congressional Republicans. As we prefaced before we went to this feed, we do have an 8 o'clock interview. If we are able to get back to the president in just a few minutes, we will certainly do so. With that, though, we wanted to turn to our scheduled interview here. Of course, we've been hearing reactions throughout the day following the sad news of the passing of rock legend Ozzy Osbourne. He was 76 years old, and so many folks are weighing in on how they feel tonight, not just about hearing the news, but just the legacy they feel that he left behind. Before we dive into our interview, we wanted to kind of introduce everyone who's joining with this conversation, because we got a couple of faces here in the Live Impact News studio. Of course, y'all already know James Brierton, our producer, who's been with us for this entire evening stream. But we have joining us now, we have Nathaniel Puente, who is part of our digital team. So folks who are on WCNC.com or any of our social media platforms or any of really our online platforms, Nathaniel is one of the folks behind that work. But also, as you can probably tell from his T-shirt, a huge fan of Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. So Nathaniel's got some great insights and also some questions that he's going to bring to our guest who's joining us now. We have Colton Beasley, who's on the line with us here on Live Impact News. Colton, you are with the Ozzy Osbourne tribute band Flying High Again. You're based out of Columbia, South Carolina. So I'll start things off here. I mean, how are you feeling tonight? What was your reaction when you found out that Ozzy Osbourne had passed away?
Saddened, for sure.
Yeah.
I think lots of folks knew that it would be at some point coming. You know, we were sort of somewhat prepared for it by just his illness and things that have happened in the past couple months and years. But, you know, no one wants to see the day. So saddened for sure.
And so, I mean, with that, I did want to ask you, you know, how you got involved with this tribute band, because clearly, I mean, he is an artist who speaks to you and your bandmates. So what is it about his style, his message, whatever it is for you? How did you get into this to begin with?
So bandmates of mine had learned a bunch of Ozzy songs and were playing, and we were all going to plan to go to Charlotte to see him perform. He had to schedule or reschedule and then cancel those dates due to his Parkinson's. And we just love the guy, love the music. I think what drew me to him as a frontman, as a performer, was that he is so focused on the audience and the enjoyment of them. You know, go crazy and everything else he does, man. It's just to excite the fans. And I think he's very outwardly focused, and man, that's something to be proud of.
Colton, hi, it's Nathaniel. What are some of your favorite moments? You know, I mean, I know you mentioned that in 2019 you guys were planning to go see him, but then his tour dates were unfortunately canceled because of his Parkinson's diagnosis. But before that, what are some of your favorite moments of Ozzy Osbourne growing up?
Man, I learned Mr. Crowley on guitar somewhat. Did not learn the solo, but just learning those initial songs, those riffs, got me started in playing, and I've always had deep respect for the musicianship of everyone in his band. So that blew me away. But then at I believe 15, 16, I got to see him at concert, and everyone was saying he's gonna, you know, not be the performer that he was 20 years ago or when I saw him in the 80s or whatnot. I loved the album Scream, and that's the reason why we went to the show, because we loved the album, and I just listened to it until it basically stopped playing. And seeing him live, he had such energy, physical energy, running around, waving at the crowd, you know, throwing buckets of water. He did the thing. And that really got me, because, man, you could see it inside of him like a fire on stage. And so even at his age, I think then he would have been 66 or 67 maybe. Fantastic performer. So just big love for the fans, man. He's got such an energy that he pulls from the audience, and it's a reciprocal thing. And he's just spreading, you know, himself and positivity through the crowd by waving at them and singing and watching them sing back. I think he lived off of that. So seeing him not be able to perform anymore is saddening, but you know, he left a massive legacy, and in the wake of his passing, thousands of musicians are going to come out. So I think he'll be making a big impact for a very, very long time.
if you kind of had to summarize what Ozzy means, I know we're seeing all these tributes on all these different news sites. People might know Crazy Train, people might know a story or two about the Osbournes or whatever, but what exactly does Ozzy Osbourne mean to heavy metal and rock music? When I pick up this album, when I Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath, like this is where it all started, right? This is where heavy metal started. Like this is our cornerstone, the groundwork on which we were all laid. Every guy with weird long hair like you and I, or who wears black shirts every day, this is where it started. So to you, what does Ozzy Osbourne just mean to you, and what does Black Sabbath mean to you as a being, as a metalhead, right?
Man, I think what Ozzy means to me, and Sabbath the band too, exuberant energy, but they were just themselves. In a time that there was so much other music going on, nothing like what they did. They had to be pretty fearless to put something like that out there, and not knowing how the world was going to accept it, not knowing what the crowds would do. So I think that they really had to get that grit in them, but they loved the music so much that they wanted to. And I think that's what Ozzy means to me. He just loved the music so much that he would still be performing, just a couple weeks ago, even though he couldn't stand and couldn't sing as well as he might have in the past. That's what it means to me, man.
Really cool. You guys are from the Carolinas. You've obviously toured across the country. Your music and performing and paying tribute to Ozzy and Black Sabbath has afforded you the ability to do that. What exactly is it as a performer that you hope people take away as trying to emulate Ozzy Osbourne?
Man, I think you got to do it from the heart. I think Ozzy would have done it from the heart, and I try to reel myself in when I think of, oh, Ozzy did this, Ozzy wore this, Ozzy said this, It's one thing to imitate someone, but it's another thing to have respect for what they did and why they did it. And I try to do that. I hope that the fans that come to our shows are very pleased and they have a great time and they think that as well. But at the end of the day, to me, it's about respectfully putting the music out there and the energy and the madness, the aura, the fan interaction and participation that made Ozzy such a successful household name. It was because he, had a big love for the fans, and I feel like I do as well. I know everyone in our band does, and every show that we have, we are just blasted with energy from them. So sometimes I think, man, this is kind of what Ozzy felt like, man. He's just very grateful, very loved, just wonderful. It's a wonderful experience, and I think Ozzy lived that very well. He made a good image for that.
I slowly just want to show off my vinyl collection. But, you talk about Ozzy as the person, the madman, Bark at the Moon. You think of the Diary of a Madman cover. You think of the Blizzard of Oz cover, right? So many crazy things that he was as a character. Obviously, you probably don't try to go out snorting ants or any of the crazy things Ozzy Osbourne allegedly did. But do you have a favorite story of Ozzy as the person? I mean, I've seen lists of dozens and dozens of crazy things this man allegedly got up to. So kind of a miracle that he lived to 2025, right? I think is what the general consensus is. But do you have a favorite crazy, wild Ozzy Osbourne story that you like to read about?
Man, this is actually a lived one. So I'll tell you the reason that we kick our show off with Bark at the Moon. When I saw Ozzy live on the Scream tour, the first song was Bark at the Moon, and he was at the PNC Pavilion, and there were fireworks, the flamethrowers and stuff like that. When the blast went off, it scared him something fierce. He looks around, like you could physically see that, he kind of jolted and looked around, and the entire crowd is screams, break the side, singing the song to him. And he kind of pulls himself together, jumps right back into singing, and I was just like, yes, he's not just solely lip syncing. He's doing the thing, man. I love that though. It was real. I think that was cool.
Really cool, really cool. And obviously, you're there wearing an Ozzy shirt, and you've got all the records, I'm sure, and you guys play a full set of Ozzy stuff whenever you can. But do you have any plans to do a tribute show in the near future? Or I know obviously the news just came in today, but do you think there's anything in the works of you guys paying a full big tribute to Ozzy in the Carolinas at some point?
That would be very, very cool. We do have a show coming up in August, on August 16th at Amos's South End. We are there with Mostly Crew, and we're going to plan something very special for that night. But man, any of our shows are special, and even though, you know, we've played before he was alive and now that he's gone, kind of feels weird. At the end of every show, I'd say, let's everyone scream as loud as we can so that he can hear us all the way in England, and we all scream Ozzy forever. So it's gonna feel different for sure.
Awesome, Colton. Well, I think that's just about all I had for you, unless there's anything else about Ozzy Osbourne, anything else about Flying High Again you want to get out there, kind of promote.
Yeah, August 16th, man, and we've got some shows coming up. If folks want to find us, they can find us on Facebook, online, Flying High Again, and we'd love to see them at a show if they're Ozzy fans, or bring your kids, you know, bring your grandpas, grandmas, anyone. I've seen the gamut of the entire world at the Ozzy show, so I really look forward to seeing folks.
Well, before we wrap things up here, gentlemen, I really, by the way, just loved seeing your back and forth, because I could just see your passion for not just music in general, but this particular music and how it clearly speaks to you. So I'm going to pose a question to each of you. I guess I'll start with Nathaniel, because we haven't heard your take, you know, recently on why this music does speak to you, because I feel like, you know, whether you grew up with it or maybe you're kind of like of a new generation, you're just discovering it, there's a lot of messaging to this music, and I think it speaks to maybe like a questioning of society, and I think that's kind of an allure for some people, but I'm just curious to hear what you think.
Man, that's always such a hard question to answer. Like, people say, why do you like this music so much? Why do you make it your entire personality? I think it's just so overall encompassing. Like I just really like guitars. I just really like the loud guitars, you know, the bass, the drums, the singing. You know, you mentioned the messaging, the lyricism is sometimes pretty cool. Some bands do that pretty well, I think. It's just kind of a lifestyle, you know. You build yourself around, and I'm sure Colton can attest to this. You know, there's when you like metal music, you don't just like music. Like, you're in a group, you're in a kind of a society of people. I almost wanted to really degrade ourselves, but I'm not going to do that on live Impact News. But you know, you're in a group of people who just really love this music, and really, it's a community, it's a family, and I know that's a little cheesy to say, but it really is just a group of people who just really love this music. We really love guitars and loud music and the lyrics and all that. So yeah, that would be my answer to why we like this music so much.
Yeah, Colton, what's your answer? I mean, I see you nodding your head as Nathaniel's speaking. I feel like maybe you're probably in the same vein here.
Certainly. And Nathaniel had mentioned Iron Maiden, so I'm going to take a leap. I think that he, same reason I got into this music, and from the get-go, you know, I like guitar. My parents play and family plays and stuff like that, but I got into this music specifically because I went to a concert and everyone was everyone's friend immediately. There was no question. It was, you don't have money to buy a water or a beer, you need someone to watch your spot while you go. Everyone was everyone's friend. I think in a world where everyone's looking for friends, and it's, you know, where social media and everything else, we're kind of isolated in some ways, but concerts, especially where it feels like the folks around you are neighbors that you didn't meet yet. That's very cool. Iron Maiden was that to me. Ozzy was that to me. So many metal bands have been that to me at their shows, and that's something special, man. Not a lot of music has that same kind of energy, and nothing against any other kinds of music. I love all kinds, but definitely if you go to a metal show and it's your first time ever, and you're there, folks will take you in under their wing. So
yeah, a lot of big hearts. A lot of big hearts,
yeah.
I know. Under all that hair. I love it. Anything else, gentlemen, before we wrap things up?
No, just love Ozzy, appreciate him. I'm just very grateful that he came into this world and did what he did, and you know, we're going to miss him. It's a very somber day, but it's a chance to memorialize him and remember the icon. And as I've said earlier today on Live Impact News, you know, in 100 years, 200 years, we're going to remember him. Like in 2025, we look at Mozart and Beethoven and all of those people who are absolutely legendary. We're going to look at Ozzy Osbourne in the same way.
Yeah. Colton, anything
Certainly.
for you?
Can we wrap it with an Ozzy Forever on 3? 1, 2, 3.
Ozzy forever.
Thank you.
Nathaniel, did you do it? There we go.
Nathaniel couldn't hear.
Oh, okay,
Just to
sorry.
explain. Yeah.
Colton, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. And folks, once again, check out Flying High again if you're interested in that tribute band and the show coming up next month. All right.
Thank you.
Folks, here on Live Impact News, we mentioned we got a couple feeds going on. We quickly did want to touch on weather. Fortunately for us today was not a weather alert day. It's just a nice break from the heat that we all needed. And I say that it's a relative term. It was still pretty hot, but not to the levels that we saw that were prompting warnings and such in recent days. But this weekend, it is going to be hot again, resurging with a vengeance. A live look right now. Gorgeous shot here as we're getting into, I guess, twilight-ish? Yeah, I say that, twilight-ish. But yeah, let's listen in on what we can expect weather impacts over the next several days, folks.
Bit cool yesterday. So yesterday's high was 99 at the airport. Today we were at 90. So a small difference, but a difference nonetheless. Still humid as we're tracking a cold front moving through the area, but hey, at least the clouds kept those temperatures lower. Tomorrow, sunshine returns, and it's the humidity that we're going to be watching taking a tumble. Even though temperatures will be still in the low to mid 90s, it's actually going to feel like the low to mid 90s. Now, unfortunately, the next 2 days are going to be the best days we'll probably see of the week, maybe even the rest of the month, as temperatures are soaring back into the upper 90s as we get closer to the weekend. Now remember, our average high is right around 90, so every single day over the next 7 and even 10 days, it's expected to not only be above average, but of course the humidity is going to be a huge factor. With rain and storms a little bit less aggressive there today, of course we know the humidity is shifting south. That's why we have all these storms down toward Union, South Carolina, down toward Newberry. Still a few little sparks there of rain though. You can see Lancaster about to get doused with some heavy rain. Thankfully not a ton of lightning, not a lot of thunder within that particular storm passing over 521. Elsewhere you can see some outflow boundaries developing across Chester County, again down toward Whitmer, Newberry, just to the south and east of Lawrence. Truthfully, I think all of these outflow boundaries are going to push most of that activity south of us, so I wouldn't expect a lot of action in Chester County. York County, you're pretty much clear since that outflow boundary is south of you now, but maybe on the southwestern side of Chester, it's something we'll certainly be watching here locally. And of course, I'll have more on WCNC Plus at 6:30 for our live weather impact stream. Light rain pushing through here, southern Burke County, right about to move into Cleveland County. And there is some heavy rain on the eastern side of that particular cell, which will likely clip also western parts of Gaston and Lincoln. And then here you go, all the way up to the mountains. We once again have one downpour between Newland, down toward Pineola, and eventually shifting toward Jonas Ridge. The mountains have actually gotten the bulk of our rain locally, at least here in the Charlotte area, over the last few weeks. And here's a closer look once again at that heavier pocket of rain, again shifting down south toward Cleveland County and northwestern Lincoln. Now, how much more rain expected for the rest of the night? Well, pretty much what we're seeing right now is the gist of it. We're not going to see more rain in the Charlotte metro, but I do believe in the mountains and foothills on kind of the back end flow of that low pressure. We'll likely see a few more pockets of rain through about 11 o'clock tonight. After that, quiet all throughout the day on Wednesday. And again, the big story tomorrow is not that we're going to be not hot because we're still in the 90s. It's that, of course, that humidity lower will make it feel much better. So again, the actual air temperature in the low 90s, it still feels like the low to mid 90s. Temps will get a little bit toastier heading into Thursday, Friday. We'll kind of be on that slow step ladder back up to the upper 90s. And again, upper 90s paired with humidity. That's why we're going to keep folks weather alert again both Saturday and Sunday for likely heat advisories issued across the metro. So here's that 7-day forecast. Again, you can see those most hot, most humid days highlighted. Small chance we could expand into early next week, but again, really the point of keeping folks weather aware is that they know before the heat happens, and I think at this point we know that it's come roaring back this weekend. Long range forecast though does show many days in the 90s. I don't think upper 80s are coming anytime soon, and if this forecast holds, we will very quickly go from 16 days in a row of 90 plus to 26 days in a row of 90 plus, which would put us well into the top 3 most 90-degree days ever during the summer in Charlotte.
Wow.
I feel like that's a record that I'm just going to begrudgingly not want to see.
I'm ready for that record to go away.
I'm ready for fall.
I know.
But we're seeing some nice fall colors.
This is a beautiful shot.
Colors.
This is our Dallas sky cam. We showed it to you right before that latest forecast from Brittany, and we turned it a little bit more to look, I guess, due west. And what a lovely, lovely view. And I think the clouds add to the depth of this image, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Feels like something Bob Ross would paint.
A happy little cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were just missing the happy little trees, actually, but
they're down there in the darkness.
They're down in the bottom of the frame.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's good to see the sun in this angle because I'm so used to going for walks.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, whether it's in the morning or the afternoon, I just feel like the sun is just beating down on me lately. You know, just
that little
aggressive.
relief that comes.
Yeah.
At this time of day goes a long way.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, so today was kind of a delight, you know, relatively speaking. Unfortunately, folks, as you heard Brittany sharing, in a few days we're going to have to probably be on our guard again for heat-related impacts, and our weather impact team will be keeping us abreast of all the very latest as we go every step of the way. And as you probably know by now, if you're familiar with either our weather impact stream or just listening to our team of meteorologists talk, they fine-tune that forecast as we get closer and closer to whatever the weather event is. So, you know, this far out, I think they have a pretty good idea. This is what Brittany was telling us, you know, earlier, that it is going to be a weather alert day for the heat, but exactly which temperature is it going to be? Well, you know, the feels like they're still fine-tuning that, so stay tuned for that. All right, we mentioned we got a few feeds going on right now. James, I know we were kind of keeping an eye on New York. I don't know how you feel about the shot. I know it's kind of going in and out. Is this woman being interviewed?
Let me take a quick listen, and you can kind of maybe give a setup.
Yes. I'll give a background here on one of the feeds that we're watching, folks. So you might remember from over the weekend, there was this Amber Alert story that came out of New York. And unfortunately, the 9-year-old girl at the center of that case, her body was actually found in Ticonderoga, New York. And then there's a vigil going on right now.
This is an interview with the organizer of tonight's vigil.
Okay, so let's see if we can listen in here. As James, our producer, mentioned, there was a vigil in her honor tonight.
A child lost her life in our town, and I cannot fathom not giving her an eternal resting place. And if this is where her body was found, this is where she'll be remembered forever.
Does it seem normal to you for so many people to gather tonight to memorialize a little girl they never knew?
In Ticonderoga, no, because that's what we do best. You know, when somebody is sick or hurt or they need help, people come together in this community. And she might not have been one of us, but we're going to love her like she is one of our own.
How long does an event like this stay in the memory bank of the folks who live here?
For me, it'll probably be forever, and I'll always think of her every time I go over 74, and I think the people of Ticonderoga are going to remember Melina for the rest of their lives as well.
You said that's a beautiful thing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for coming up.
It's our job.
So, folks, yeah, there you see an interview with the organizer of this vigil tonight in Ticonderoga, New York, as the community is trying to grapple with what happened. As we kind of recap for you before we went to this feed in full, there was a 9-year-old girl whose body was found there Sunday. Actually, just today, they had released the results of an autopsy. Police say that she actually died of asphyxia due to drowning. And so New York State Police here releasing some more information as well. They say the death of this young girl, Melina Fratolin, she's from Montreal, is being considered a homicide case. They do need to do some more investigation, more laboratory testing, in fact, but like we said, they felt confident putting out that asphyxia due to drowning was the cause of death. She was actually on vacation in the U.S. with her father when she was reported missing. And so that father now, Luciano Fratolin, has been charged with second-degree murder and concealment of a corpse after his daughter's body was found in a pond there in that part of New York. They had been doing multi-agency searches, though, leading up to that discovery, and we talked about the fact that there wasn't even an Amber Alert. The father had said that his daughter had been abducted by 2 men in a white van, and later police found out that story was actually false, they say. So more on this to come. Meantime, we've got our other feed. As promised, we want to get back to that right now. It's still underway. This is live look at the White House. This is the East Room. As we speak, President Trump, it looks like House Speaker as well, Mike Johnson, addressing congressional Republicans. Let's listen in right now on what they're discussing.
Name person by person, and I should name their spouses as well, all the members in this room, everybody deserves the credit. They underestimated us all the time, every day, because our margin is so small. But we do not accept that as our fate. We work together. This was prayer and patience and preparation and teamwork that got it done. We began this about a year and a half before that bill was delivered, the deliberate work down in the trenches. I could name the chairman of all of our committees, 11 committees of jurisdiction that worked on the big, beautiful bill. All the members in here who contributed their ideas, their thoughts, their expertise. They gave their heart and soul to it, Mr. President, because they wanted to deliver for you and deliver for the people, and we did it together. And I'm telling you, this is landmark stuff. There's not anything bigger I think we may ever work on, ever, in this legislative arena, because it may not even be possible, but we did it. And I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful and humbled to work with this group. Mr. President, they are committed to the country as you are. You are the strong leader, the example for us. With your stamina, we know we can never sleep, okay? We've got much more to do to deliver for the people, and we're going to do it. We thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the celebration. Everybody here deserves it. God bless.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right, looks like some of this address is wrapped up. We heard from the president just several moments back, and most recently heard there from House Speaker Mike Johnson, touting a lot of the hard work as they see it amongst congressional Republicans in getting the One Big Beautiful bill passed and across the finish line on the president's desk by his July 4th Independence Day deadline. Looks like there's going to be some milling about at this point. I don't know if there are any other activities planned for this evening here. But as we talked about, we've got a couple of different shots that we're watching in the background. I know that we've got still the New York Vigil that's underway for the 9-year-old out of Ticonderoga, which we just brought you kind of an interview in full just a few moments back. And I know, James, you popped up a new feed for us. This is out of Kerr, Texas, hard hit by the flooding.
Yes.
What's this meeting about?
It was a community meeting, like a city council meeting, but obviously they've been making a lot of news out of these after the devastating flooding in Texas. And of course, just as we went to that, the meeting concluded there in Kerr, Texas. So we'll wait to find out what some of the headlines were. But we do know that our affiliate in Texas got a chance to go visit one of the many campgrounds, one of the many RV parks that were flooded during that devastating flash flooding that they saw earlier this month in Texas, Vanessa. So I think we could go ahead and play that report right now here on WCNC Plus.
That'd be great.
Michael Abner and Lorena Guillen are thankful to be walking to the banks of the Guadalupe River together.
Oh, he's one of my residents.
2 weeks after the deadly July 4th floods, damage, water in the campgrounds, and nearby search crews are still hard to grasp.
God, this was so beautiful. All the green grass right here, where all that water is right now. I can't believe the water's so high still.
Abner takes us to where his RV was sitting, with him inside, when Guillen banged on his door July 4th to tell him to evacuate. She and her husband helping to save nearly every family at their campground when the flood came rushing at them.
So you don't think you would have realized the extent of the danger you were in if Lorena hadn't knocked on your door?
No, I mean, I was asleep, totally asleep at 5 in the morning.
Abner providing us these videos showing his lot in the hours during and after the floodwaters came through the area. RVs swept away. This is what it looks like nearly 2 weeks later.
How far would you say we are from where the Guadalupe is supposed to begin?
Well, you see, God, I'm going to say at least a football field.
He says he plans to closely watch the state's special session next week.
What do you hope you hear from that session?
No, that they're going to put these sirens in.
Abner says he plans to make frequent visits to check in on Guillen and help her with what she needs to rebuild the campgrounds.
I mean, every time I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? How?
Guillen says there's no flood insurance on her land, and she will have to fix electrical, plumbing, sewer, and the ramps.
That's the thing that impresses me the most. A lot of my residents, just like Michael, they're like, we're coming back once it's ready.
Coming back to stand here together near the banks of the Guadalupe River.
He said, she saved my life. I'm going to help her rebuild.
No. Oh.
That's a fact.
In Ingram, I'm Amanda Henderson, KHOU 11 News.
And of course, we are still thinking of folks out there in Texas. I know flooding has been a big issue, not just there, but here on Live Impact News around this time, we were talking about the flooding rescues that were going on in Missouri and folks even here in the Carolinas, North Carolina, who are still dealing with impacts of flooding and what Chantal has done to the area, even to this day, now that we're even just a couple of weeks removed from that weather event. Folks, we want to turn right now to State Department briefing today. Of course, a lot of big topics touched on and questions posed by reporters. So let's listen in. As always, here on Live Impact News, we'll break in with anything big and developing.
Thank you, ma'am. Good. I don't know, it looks busy in here, which is always good. All right, we've got, welcome aboard, everyone. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for being here. I don't know if it's a beautiful day outside, but it's a beautiful day in here. All right, I'm Tammy Bruce, of course. I'm the spokesperson here for the State Department. And everyone watching at home, however you're seeing us, thank you all very much. You can get us at the State Department X account, I believe, also at state.gov. I know C-SPAN viewers are always with us, and I appreciate that, as well as a variety of other streaming. I don't know. There's my young man who was not here last time because he was traveling, Tommy Piggott, our principal deputy. And he will be briefing on Thursday, by the way, as we begin here. So let's start with the statement, shall we? Here on this, is this the last week of July? Is that possible? It's getting close. It's weird. Everyone's saying no. All right, I'm already wrong. All right, everybody. As of Friday evening, there are no wrongfully detained Americans in Venezuela, and we want to keep it that way. We are committed to doing everything we can to prevent one American national from being wrongfully detained by the Venezuelan regime ever again. To this end, I want to reiterate our clear warning. No one should go to Venezuela. We have the risk, certainly, of wrongful detention of Americans, of dual nationals, of lawful permanent residents. Whoever you are, don't go there. The risk is extremely high. Americans who travel to Venezuela or nearby border regions risk being wrongfully detained for months or even years. And release is never a guarantee. You can stop that yourself by not going to Venezuela. Further, the days of unelected health bureaucrats in Geneva running over the American people are over. It's a good day. In collaboration with the Department of Health and Human Services, we formally notified the World Health Organization of our rejection of the 2024 International Health Regulations amendments, which were set to become legally binding regardless of our WHO withdrawal. The 2024 IHR amendments broadened the WHO's mandate to include not only public health emergencies of international concern, but also, quote, events or conditions that may have the potential to become emergencies. How nice for them. This allows the WHO to deem what constitutes an international threat. We know from COVID-19 that an expanded international health bureaucracy will use their authority to centralize decision-making, stifle scientific debate, and censor free speech. Rejecting the 2024 IHR amendments reaffirms our position that U.S. public health policy will be shaped by Americans for Americans. And with our HHS colleagues, we are proud on delivering that mandate. And today, the United States informed Director General Audrey Azoulay of the United States' decision to withdraw from the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, also known, of course, as UNESCO. Continued involvement in UNESCO is not in the national interest of the United States. UNESCO works to advance divisive social and cultural causes and maintains an outsized focus on the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, a globalist ideological agenda for international development at odds with our America First foreign policy. UNESCO's decision to admit the, quote, State of Palestine, end quote, as a member state is highly problematic, contrary to U.S. policy, and contributed to the proliferation of anti-Israel rhetoric within the organization. U.S. participation in international organizations will focus on advancing American interests with clarity and conviction. Based on President Trump's executive order, continued participation in international organizations is under review, and this is one result of that review, confirming the importance of making sure that all of what we do comports with the America First agenda. And finally, in today's topper, President Donald Trump met with Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in Washington, D.C. following Secretary Rubio's meeting with President Marcos yesterday. Both meetings reaffirmed the ironclad United States-Philippines alliance as vital to peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region, while advancing closer economic ties, including supply chain cooperation. Secretary Rubio announced plans to work with Congress to provide $15 million for private sector development in the Luzon Economic Corridor, part of a broader, more than $60 million initiative focused on energy, maritime issues, and economic growth. Both sides committed to regular high-level engagement as allies, particularly ahead of the 80th anniversary of the U.S.-Philippines diplomatic relations in 2026. So that is coming up, and I will now take your questions, and we'll go to Nadia.
Thank you, Tammy. I have two quick questions. The first one is quick. The second is not that quick. The first one is about Syria. It's reported that Ambassador Tom Barak is going to chair a security meeting between between Israel and Syria. Is this to avoid the scenario we seen last week? Can you elaborate on this potential meeting between them?
Well, what I can tell you is that all parties have reached a cessation of hostilities. We are calling on the Syrian government to lead on the next steps and hold all perpetrators of violence accountable for their actions. The United States government supports Syria's national unity and a peaceful and inclusive resolution with its minority constituents. I did speak with the Secretary briefly, actually just before coming up here, which is why I was a little bit late. But he expressed his optimism regarding the current situation, that the Syrian government agreed to a boundary to not go into the Soweto area, but that there would be a boundary to make sure that jihadists were also not going in, to maintain some part of the peace, if you will, and he was enthusiastic about that was unfolding properly, and that everyone involved in the atrocities would be held accountable. And that could include people who also may be affiliated with the Syrian government. Obviously, a good opportunity for them to show their commitment to what needs to be achieved there. Yes,
Caroline, your colleague said that President Trump, and I want to quote him just to be precise, she said that President Trump hated seeing pictures of starvation of women and children trying desperately to get to the aid. He wants to see it done in a peaceful manner. As you know, there's 1,000 people have been killed around the food distribution center. So how can the State Department or the administration fulfill the president's statement of what he said now to make sure that the food amount is increased more than the 80 million that you mentioned to us before, and to make sure that people are secure and not killed while they're trying to get the food?
Right. That is clearly our North Star. It is the thing that is uppermost in mind for the president, to still get peace so that these issues are no longer issues. Also, in my conversation with the Secretary, he has noted that Special Envoy Witkoff is heading to the region now, to the Gaza area. And we all have, as the President and the Secretary and the envoy, a strong hope that we will come forward with another ceasefire, as well as a humanitarian corridor for aid to flow, that both sides have in fact agreed to this. So we are looking forward to that arrangement and to a possible framework, again, regarding a ceasefire. Remember, we had one before, which Hamas broke. But what the Secretary indicated was, again, an aid corridor that needs to be set up, that both sides have agreed to, that the humanitarian situation, of course, has been a main focus of what our concern has been, obviously. And so I'm hoping, as I mentioned to some of you earlier in the day in our conversation, that each day has the potential to have this be better. We're working on it constantly. And so I would suggest that we might have some good news, but again, as we know, this can be constantly a changing dynamic. Right.
Gaza area?
Correct. He's going to the region. Well, let me just say, this is a very quick conversation. It was on the telephone. He said the area. He said Gaza, the area. Now, of course, it could be, we have many, many partners there, many allies. So keep that in mind when it comes to the specific location of the envoy. I do not have that, but it's in a dynamic to where we're looking to finalize this arrangement. Yes, Andrew Mitchell. Hi there.
Thank you very much. Recognizing that, as you've stated many times, as we know, Hamas started this and can finish it.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to take it from there, from where you just left
yes.
off. Is there recognition now that it is important to establish aid outside of that southern area in Rafah so that it is more accessible to people who don't have to travel these distances and deal with the IDF confrontations that inevitably have occurred? And I'd just like to follow up on that as well.
Right. It's been always the intention, obviously, to have as many sites as possible. And again, it's been the difficulty of being in a war zone and what you can do and what you can arrange. The fact that we've had 3 sites up, and I think now it is nearly 85 million meals to date at the distribution centers that do exist. Clearly, it's not just a dynamic of wanting more distribution centers in a war zone. Our goal is to have not a war zone, and the aid corridor that the Secretary mentioned to me, so that multiple entities can deliver aid and whatever is needed in that region without being eluded and hijacked by Hamas.
Now, the initial plan, as it had been described to us, was that the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation would have...
Well, it really is called that. It's really called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, but go ahead.
Well, they call themselves the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
Yes, ma'am.
That they would be using American contractors or other contractors for security. As it's turned out, it seems to be more IDF, and that's been possibly one of the causes of the problems that, as was just mentioned, it's been 1,000 deaths.
Supposition there. So
doctors have pointed out that people are coming in with, heavy wounds from heavy artillery. Is the possibility of having some sort of neutral contractors as the security force rather than the IDF?
Well, that, of course, presupposes that IDF soldiers who are in a mode of defense of their country are deliberately shooting civilians and children.
I didn't suggest that.
Well, that is the implication that you need someone who's, not involved implies that it would be better. It is a dynamic where, and I think even a horrible situation over this weekend regarding a UN convoy in Zikkim at a crossing, that more than 30 people were killed in that dynamic trying to access food, because that is the focus of every human being. This has got to end. Well, not every human being, but certainly Hamas is preferring the way things have been. This was at a crossing in northern Gaza, and there are certainly Hamas is injured by the inability to hijack this food and to hijack trucks. And they are injured by the success of GHF and what it's been doing, because they have not just looted these trucks, but they've weaponized the money that they make from this food, and then they control the population with it. It is the success of GHF has removed, by getting meals in at that number is a tremendous success, but it's removed the power and the influence of Hamas financially and with using aid and food as a weapon itself to control people. So it is, I think that the UN knows this, everyone else has seen this, that it's not a dynamic, and I've got the GHF statement here as well for you, but I think no matter who has been trying to deliver food, they've known historically and recently that there's going to be, and as long as Hamas still has its weapons and is still a player in that region, there's still going to be problems. The GHF statement regarding this last massacre, if you will, we're deeply saddened by reports that more than 30 people were killed while trying to access food from a UN convoy at the Zikam crossing in northern Gaza as humanitarian efforts face escalating violence. Like most incidents, this incident is not linked to GHF, despite what was falsely implied by various newspapers. These tragedies deserve visibility. The entire aid system is under immense strain. We hope reporters will cover these incidents with the same scrutiny GHF receives, because understanding the full picture is essential to protecting civilians and improving aid
And
delivery.
have you seen the statement by 28 countries led by some of our closest allies in Europe?
Yes, and I think it's nice to know, and many of certainly it's our allies and friends, it's a demand for the war in Gaza to stop. And we, of course, we've taken actions on that, I think, as we've seen, and we wonder why certain things have continued unabated, or at least in a kind of a perpetual loop, is because strongly worded letters don't stop this madness. Strongly worded letters won't stop Hamas. Strongly worded letters wouldn't stop Iran. Strongly worded letters are fine, and it's good to know where people stand. I appreciate that very much. The United States, through the leadership of President Trump, and the guidance and the hand also of Secretary Rubio, and of our remarkable envoys, put their lives at risk, take action, make decisions, confront important questions, sometimes when it works, when it doesn't work. But it's more, and sometimes strongly worded tweets and letters in the midst of the actions that we are taking. So we appreciate their sentiment, but I think that the fact of the matter is that we have a history here of recognizing that we have work to implement what they issue as their desire for the war to stop, and we've been taking action on that. So we know that the conflicts which we are trying to end do not end because of letters or even conferences, but because of intense diplomatic efforts. We are leading that effort alongside Egypt and Qatar. And as I mentioned earlier, we are hoping for some rapid responses coming up soon. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tammy. On that note, I guess if you could talk a little bit about how that progress is progressing towards a resolution. But on a more broader note, Judd, is it the department's assessment that the current, policy towards the conflict is working in drawing it to a close? Because when you see 79 people killed waiting for aid, which is one of the highest numbers we've seen over the course of the 2 years,
it's absolutely horrible.
It feels like things are going in the wrong direction.
Well, what it shows us here is that the enemy, the barbarian framework that started this on October 7th, with the mass murder of Jews, the biggest mass murder of Jews since the Holocaust, they are going to be upset and strike back when there appears to be the end to the kind of conflict, this never-ending generational conflict that some of the worst people in the world, state sponsor of terrorism, Iran, and their death squads, have relied on fear, have relied on indecision, have relied on people not wanting to face hard decisions. So, of course, they're going to act and cause more terror and more death in the hopes that people will retreat. That's not going to happen. And it means pushing through, making sure you stay on the line, making sure you have the goal in mind, what you're trying to achieve, if it's achievable, the willingness, yes, to use diplomacy, and as President Trump has indicated, other mechanisms in which to get the job done. So I would argue that Hamas, being desperate and doing more horrible things, that's not new for them, right? That's their hallmark, is something that horribly, it's not a surprise, but that the work to end this from going again and again and again and having the same conversation in 100 years is obscenely unacceptable. So we see the results. It has been, when you say if there's been progress, the parties have been at the table. There have been agreements, one of which, of course, is broken. There can be another one. We're determined for that. Certainly, their sponsor is on their heels, for lack of a better phrase, because they also found out that President Trump is a realist and is serious. So I think that it is clearly shown progress. It's clearly shown a direction. And the accomplishment of one of the red lines from President Trump, which is that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Well, guess what? They won't.
All right, folks, we're going to pivot away from this earlier State Department briefing to turn to a breaking update on a story we've been following throughout the day. Our team within the last hour or so has just received the statement from Carowinds following a reported sexual assault that happened over the weekend at the park. You can see the statement reads here, Carowinds is committed to providing a safe environment for our guests and associates. They go on to say we work in close partnership with our local law enforcement agencies to maintain a secure presence inside and outside the park. Now, on that note, we should mention here our Siobhan Riley is working on a follow-up for our evening news, late evening newscast at 11. By the way, you're looking at live images of Carowinds itself right now, where she actually spoke today with folks who were coming out of the park and folks in the area, and people actually told her they saw it appeared to be a heightened security presence there, if not a very robust security presence. But we'll hear more of the reaction that community is sharing and more on the investigation, but essentially limited information that we have at this point. Charlotte Mecklenburg police confirm through a report that there was an incident report made here regarding an assault. The victim was a teenager. We don't know anything other than that. Their identities withheld because they're a minor. So more on that to come as we get more information. We want to, of course, keep you abreast of other big happenings around the Carolinas. So don't forget our sports departments. You can see Sports Director Nick Carboni and reporter Danielle Stein. They're on the case here with the Panthers training camp, which is getting underway. Yeah, we've got morning, afternoon, evening updates. Yeah. Live reports. So just keep it here. We had rookies report yesterday, veterans reported today, and it looks like training camp itself gets underway tomorrow. So stay tuned here on WCNC Plus for that. We also have for you, we hope that you take part and help us impact the community in a positive way with the school supply drive. We're partnering with United Way. We know not every student starts the school year with all the supplies that they need, so we want to make sure that we can rectify that situation. You got a QR code on your screen. If you are unable to scan that QR code, for example, maybe you're watching on your phone, we've got it on our website, wcnc.com/community. Or go inside the WCNC Charlotte mobile app and look under the featured section. You have until the 11th of August to donate. We certainly hope that you take part. And once again, let's all make a difference for our students in the community. We'll leave you here as we turn over to our next hour of program. This beautiful shot. James, this is Dallas again, right?
That's right.
Dallas Tower Cam, always coming through with the great shots. Have a great night, folks. Vanessa Rufus here alongside producer James Brierton. We'll see you next time.